Alright guys, in this video we're going to show you how to chart, how we go through the ECMO charting and the ECMO flow sheets. First you'll notice I'm under the flow sheet tab, and under that I'm under the ECMO tab. I've added it over here on the side, as you can see, to my flow sheets. And so first we're going to start off with our patient flow, and here is our patient flow. Our patient flow is located in the middle of the RPM gauge, which is 3.21 liters per minute. If you also look up at the art flow in the top right left hand at the top of the screen there, it's also 3.21 liters per minute. So we're going to come over here. That's going to be our patient flow, 3.21. You can see that it automatically calculates for me the mils per kilo per minute in the next box. I'll just enter on down to the next input field here. Next we have our trended crit, our trended SVO2, and our trended SaO2. Over here, as you can see in the top right corner, we have our trended crit, which is 25.6. Go ahead and enter that. Our SVO2, which is 69%, and our SaO2 coming out of the oxygenator, which is 100%. And now I've completed the top section, the non-invasive monitoring of the ECMO pump. Next, I'm going to move on down to the ECMO pump settings. And this is actually what the pump is running at, the RPMs, the flow, and what pump we're using in oxygenator. So, as you can see here, we're running at 5,019 RPMs. So we're going to come on over this way. We are on ECMO still. So we're just going to click here on the hourglass and click on. This is hour 4. You can see I'm just adding 1 to the previous hour here. Be careful with that, it's easy to get off. Just make that hour 4. And our RPMs are 5,019, as we just said. Our flow to the oxygenator right now, if you look up into the top left, it says ox flow. That's your oxygenator flow. That's including all the shunts and the total flow to the oxygenator. So that's going to be 3.55 liters per minute. I'll come right back over here and put in 3.55. We're on the Spectrum pump. And we're utilizing the Quadrox Adult as our oxygenator. Our current sweep, we went up the last hour. You look on your flow meter. We're going to be running at 2.5 liters per minute, and we were able to wean a little bit. We're down to 85% on our FiO2. Okay. And now we're going to come back over to the pump, and we're going to get our circuit pressures, our venous return, pre-membrane, post-membrane pressure, and it will automatically calculate for you your delta P here for trending purposes. Okay. So we're going to come on over, and as you see at the top there, we have our pre, our post, and our venous return, as well as our delta P. So our venous return is negative 140. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Our pre-membrane pressure is 390. Our post-membrane pressure is 370. And our delta P automatically calculates for us in the chart at 20. Okay. Next we have our anticoagulation, which we're on bivalve. And then we do our hourly checklist. And these are all things that you need to go over with your preceptor at your bedside. But we're going to check all of our pressures. We're going to make sure that our bubble detector is still on and functioning. We're going to actually look at the sweep gas flow and make sure it's still running the same thing it was the previous hour if we've not changed it, or if we have changed it, whatever the desired flow rate is. Our blenders do have a tendency at time to drift. So we want to make sure that we look at that and stay on top of that. We're going to check our circuit connections. All of the connections to the circuit we want to tighten down and make sure that they're tight. Specifically our bridge, our stopcock positions are closed, and all of our connections are secure. We're going to get our flashlight. We're going to do a tip-to-tip circuit check, looking at our cannulation site. Also, we're going to check for any air, fibrin, or clots throughout the circuit. We're going to look at our cannulation site. We're going to make sure that the cannulation site is clean, dry, and intact. If it's not, what changed? And we're going to chart that here. We're also going to look at our heat exchanger and ensure that our heater water temp that is set and the actual water temp are accurate. Okay. So I'm going to come here. After I've done all these things, I'm going to verify that I've done those. We're going to see our circuit condition here when we get down. has changed a little, okay? So it has changed, and we're gonna have to notify the ECMO coordinator. Anytime you have a change in your circuit, additional fiber laying down, clot formation, any error, you wanna make sure you keep your coordinator in the loop and inform them of the change. And also, if there's any change in your cannulation site, if the integrity is compromised and it's now non-occlusive, if it's bleeding, you wanna notate these things here, and you also wanna let the coordinator know what's going on. And here, set at 37, and our actual temp is 37. Okay, now we're gonna go on and we're going to evaluate our LDA. And as you see here throughout the shift, this was with initiation, we went on here. All right, we had no complications, and we were clean, dry, and intact on our dressing. The next hour, you see we had a little bit of drainage, okay? And we had a little bit of bloody drainage here, but our dressing integrity was still intact, and it was occlusive. The last hour, it was full on bleeding. It was intact still, and it was occlusive. So this hour is continuing to bleed. And now we're non-occlusive. We have blood dripping down the neck. We're going to go ahead and call our ECMO coordinator and let our ECMO coordinator know. Okay. And here at the bottom are our shift checks. Your preceptor will go over this with you in length, but whenever you initiate support, change a circuit, or travel, you need to do a full ECMO shift check. That's just going to do all of the full safety checks. We're going to make sure that our pump is plugged into a red outlet. We're going to make sure that our cannulation site first is still intact and it's RESPR policy. We're going to make sure our emergency blood is in the refrigerator. That's 2 units at all times need to be in the refrigerator in case of an emergency. This is a raceway replacement kit that was used on roller pumps. We do not use those anymore. This will always be an NA. M3 monitor in place and operating. This is your Spectrum pump. Your Spectrum pump is on and monitoring the patient, monitoring flows, monitoring pressures, monitoring your saturations, monitoring your crit. Okay. We have an appropriate cut-in kit with a safety lock at the bedside. The cut-in kit is used for bedside emergencies. We need to make sure there's a 3/8 or a 1/4 inch available. You have the proper size at the bedside based on what your circuit size is. You want to make sure all your pumps and syringes, pumps, and IV pumps are plugged in. Ensure that your ventilator settings are correct and that you have emergency ventilator settings posted at the bedside. You want to review the EMR and your chart orders, make sure everything's verified. You want to make sure that your parameter sheet is current, up to date, and reviewed by you and the off-going specialist at shift change. You want to make sure that you have plenty of supplies at the bedside, that your ECMO bedside card is clean and stocked. You have adequate amount of ACT cartridges. You want to make sure that the oxygenator exhaust port is unobstructed. And an obstructed exhaust port could cause the oxygenator to rupture. You want to make sure that all your pressure limits on the Spectrum pump are set. You have appropriate flow limits set. You have appropriate pressures set, and you have appropriate saturation set on the SVO2, SCO2, as well as your hematocrit. You want to make sure that at least once a shift and PRN that you flush and zero your post-membrane transducer. You want to make sure you have a good way to get in contact with your coordinator. Make sure that you have a Vocera and that your Vocera battery has plenty of charge on it. Please be clean. Make sure the pump is clean and the surrounding area is wiped down. Make sure your flow limits, again, are set on your pump. A little redundancy, but that's an important one. You want to notate who the coordinator is on your shift as well as the attending.